Okay, we're gonna go over some factoring problems that actually have kind of modeled but in real world scenarios. And this first one's kind of dumb, and it's actually a review of something we already did, but the assignment, it gets different, okay? A cat leaps into the air with an initial velocity of 12 feet per second to catch a speck of dust and then falls back to the floor. How long does a cat remain in the air? Okay, so the answer is seconds. That's our unit for our answer. So I've got two units. I've got feet and I've got seconds. Okay, so again, the time is always x. Okay, so x is seconds and y is feet. So per, the y label on top, the x label on the bottom. So the feet per second is 12, okay, that's fairly obvious. But the cat's going to leap, it's going to come back down, and what that is called a parabola. And he's going to land at 0 feet, okay, that's his landing spot. Okay, so I'm going to make a kind of big box because parabolas, I've got some more work to do rather than just plug in the numbers. So you got to remember that it's a gravity problem. And when it's gravity, we always start the equation with negative 16x to the second. Even though that's not in the problem, negative 16 is called the gravity term. It's like the speed of light, okay? It's a number. That's it. Plus, then I go look up my feet per second, and that's 12, but it's per second, so it'd be 12x. And then that's pretty much all the numbers I have, so I just put equals y, and I put 0 feet in for y, because 0 feet is a y value, feet's y. Okay, so there's two answers I need to figure out, and we have our x squared and x. So again, I have two x's that are not like terms, so I have to see 0, which I do. So that's good. I can make my boxes because there's two terms. So GCF. And then with two terms, we look for a difference of perfect squares. So GCF. Now, on these problems, we always have a negative in front because that 16 is always going to be negative. And on this problem, both the numbers I underlined have x's connected, so I need to put x. Now I look at 16 and 12, okay? So 12. 1 and 12. 12 divided by 2 is 6. 12 divided by 3 is 4. And then I'm just back to 4. So let's see. Can you divide 16 by 12? No, it's not divisible. Now try 6, okay? Nope, not divisible. If I get a decimal, I say not divisible. Go on to the next one. 4. Yup. And yup. Okay, so negative 4x is the GCF. So I need to pull that out. And then I divide by negative 4x up here. So negative 16 divided by negative 4 is 4. And now I'm taking x squared, dividing it by x. So that becomes x. And then positive 12 divided by negative 4 is negative 3. So I got a negative, so I'm going to write minus 3. And then these are the same kind of x's, so they just cancel. Okay. All right, dots, you got a difference. You have a minus, but 3 doesn't look like 3 is even on the board. Okay, so I cross this out, and I go back up here. This has an x, so that is going to be an important factor. So that's F1, and that's F2. So negative 4x could equal 0. That's your F1 factor, and then 4x minus 3 could equal 0. So I divide by negative 4, and 0 divided by negative 4 is 0. Plus 3, so I have 4x, 0 plus 3 is 3. Then I take 3 divided by 4. I know that's a decimal, but it's okay in the end if I get a decimal, so 0.75. And the one that's 0, that means he's 0 feet when he starts, and then he goes up and over. Okay, so But that's kind of a waste, okay? 0.75 is the answer I want to pick, because that would be where the time that has gone by when he lands. Okay, now, an athlete throws a discus from an initial height of 6 feet with an initial velocity of 46 feet per second. How many seconds is that discus in the air for? So we're figuring out the number of seconds. Okay, so my two units are feet and seconds. Again, the time is always x, so seconds is x, feet's y. Per feet per second, okay? And I see we have 46 feet per second, okay? So think about it, these two units, if a discus, its feet are going to go up and then it's going to come back down. Again, it's a parabola. And it's going to land on the ground, because out of track meet they don't catch discus. Okay, and with parabolas we need kind of a big box, okay? So to write the equation, we are talking gravity here. It's going to go up, come down. So I start with negative 16x squared. And then I've got 46 feet per second, so x. And then we have another number in here. 46 I've already used, but we have another number. The fact that it starts from 6 feet means I got to put plus 6 before I put equals y. And then 0 feet goes in for y. Okay, so now I only have one variable. It is to the second power, so there are two answers automatically. Book it. So now I make sure I see a 0, because anytime I've got two non-like terms of x, okay, we're going to need to set up our boxes. And a 0 is there, so I can go. I don't have to add or subtract to begin with. I'm ready to go to my tables. So GCF. And then my T-chart. Okay, so GCF, you are always going to have that negative in front on these gravity problems. Do you have x? You got three numbers this time, but does x appear after all of them? No, it doesn't. It doesn't appear after the 6, so we're not going to put an x. 16, 46, and 6. So 6, 1, 6, 2, and 3. Okay, can you divide those by 6? Nope. Nope. Yep, so 6 I get rid of. Okay, 3, I don't even know. Once I get a decimal, I'm done. Well, 16 is not divisible by 3, I know that. Okay, let's look at 2. Yep, working. Okay, so this 2 works. So negative 2 is the GCF, so I pull that out. And then I divide by negative 2. Okay, so that's going to be positive 8. And then I don't have an x down here, so it's going to stay x to the second. 46 divided by negative 2 is negative 23, so minus 23. Again, no x down here, so I keep the x. 6 divided by negative 2 is negative 3, so I put minus 3. Again. Okay, now when I do my chart, I'm going to do my ABC right here. Okay, so I'm going to be taking A times C, so the A number's 8, and the C number's negative 3. Okay, that gives me negative 24, so since I got a negative, again, I need to look for a difference that's going to equal 23. Okay, 24 minus 1 is 23. I got it right away. So look at our B. It's minus, okay? So 24 is going to be minus, and it's a difference, so the signs aren't going to match. Plus 1 minus 24. Okay, A equals 8. Okay, so since A is not a 1, we're going to need two sets here. So since A is 8, I lead off with 8. And then x second is x, and then plus 1 minus 24. So 1's the smallest there, 8's the smallest here, okay? Well, if 1's the smallest, that's just going to stay the same, okay? Cross it out. But this probably won't, because I've got 1 and 8. 8 divided by 2 is 4, so I divide it by 2, I get 4. 8 divided by 3 is a decimal, and then I'm just back to 4. Okay. Okay, so 8 divided by 8 is 1. 24 divided by 8 is 3, so I believe we can divide both these by 8. That's 1x minus 3. Okay, we did have a GCF of -2. It's smart to put that down there, but if it doesn't have an x attached to it, I'm going to ignore it because this is the only ones, F1 and F2. Okay, that's how I get my two answers. So I'm going to go outside here because I'm running out of room. 8x plus 1 equals 0, or 1x minus 3 is 0. So I'm going to minus 1. So I have 8x, 0 minus 1 is -1. I'm going to divide by 8. -1 divided by 8 is -0.125. So I'm going to put that down there, even though it's negative. Plus 3, 1x equals 3. Don't need to divide there. Okay, we can cross off the negative, and then 3 seconds is the answer. Okay, next one. A baseball is hit into the air with an initial height of 4 feet and a velocity of 30 feet per second. For how many seconds is it in the air? Okay, so my units are going to be the seconds and the feet. Okay, again, the time is always x. So seconds is x and feet is y. So per feet per second, that's 30. Okay. And again, the ball's going to go up, it's going to hit a high point, and it's going to land. Okay. So it lands at 0 feet, assuming nobody catches it. Okay. And it's a big box because it's a parabola. So gravity, -16x squared plus 30x, but then there's a nut. Before I put equals y, I got to know that it was hit from 4 feet, so I got to put plus 4, and then I put equals y. Okay, so 0 feet. Well, feet's y, so we put 0 in for that. And then I'm solving for x. Okay, well, it's to the second power. We got 2 answers. I've got x to the second, and I've got x, so those are not like terms, so I'm going to have to factor, and I need to look for the 0. It's there, okay? If 0 is not there, you got to add or subtract the crap over here on this side. But it's 0, so there's 3 terms, so I look for a GCF, and then I'm going to make my T-chart. GCF, you got a negative in front. You do not have x on everything because a 4 doesn't have x, so we can't put x down. And then 16, 30, and 4. So 4 would be the smallest, easiest one to make a factor list for. So 1, 4, and 2, and 2. Okay, can you divide these by 4? Well, if you're not sure, you know 16 divides by 4. That's 4. I know 30 does that divide by 4? No, it doesn't. It's 7.5, so we get rid of 4. Now we look for 2. That's 8. That's 15. Oh, -2. So -2 pops out of here, so I divide all these by -2. And that becomes +8, because a negative divided by negative is positive, but we're not dividing, there's no x here, so that'll stay x to the second. 30 divided by -2 is -15, so I put -15, and again, no x here, so it'll be x, and then 4 divided by -2 is -2, so -2. Okay, then I go A, B, and C. So I take A times C. A is 8, and C is -2. Well, that gives me -16. So I'm looking for a difference of 15. That's 1/16. 16 minus 1 is 15. Okay. So my B is minus, so we're going to have -16 for sure. And it's a difference, so the signs can't match. Okay. Again, if you want to check to see if you did the signs right, all you do is add positive 1 plus negative 16 and make sure that matches the B with the exact sign. It does, okay? Okay, what does A equal here? A appears like it's 8. So again, it's not a 1, so I'm going to have to go with a double set here. So 8. And then plus 1 and minus 16. So 1 is my smallest and then 8's my smallest. So if 1's the smallest, that'll just stay the same because I can't really do much. 8, factors of 8. I've got 1, 8, 2, and 4. 3 is a decimal, and then I'm just back to 4. So can I divide those by 8? I believe I can. 8 divided by 8 is 1. 16 divided by 8 is 2. So that's going to be 1x minus 2, and then we get rid of that. Now we did have this GCF up here, but I'm not going to use it to solve because there's no x with it. So that's F1 and that's F2. If it had an x, I'd put a parentheses around it, and that would be labeled with an F, but it doesn't, okay? So 8x plus 1 equals 0. And 1x minus 2 could equal 0. F1, F2, you just set them both equal to 0. That's why you have to see the 0 first. So I'm minus 1, so I have 8x. 0 minus 1 is negative 1. Divided by 8, so negative 1 divided by 8. Negative 0.125. Okay, and then plus 2, 1x equals 2, and 2 is my answer there. So 2 seconds is the legit answer. The negative can be discarded. Okay, moving right along. A cliff diver jumps from a ledge of 96 feet above the ocean with an initial upward velocity of 16 feet per second. After how many seconds does a diver hit water? So I'm trying to find the number of seconds this takes. Okay, so seconds and feet. Again, the time is always x, okay? So times x, x would be seconds, y would be feet. So per feet per second. And that's 16 feet per second. Okay. Again, the diver jumps up and then he comes back down. Probably not to that extent, but you understand what it is. It is a parabolic path. He goes up, comes back down. Okay, 0 feet. Water is going to be called 0 feet here. And then it's a parabola. And again, it's a gravity, because gravity pulls him back down, so negative 16x to the second. And then I've got 16x. And then the diver started at 96 feet above the ground, so 96 equals y. But of course, the 0 feet, given that y is feet, can be plugged in for y, and that's good because there are 2 answers. And I've got x to the second and x, so I have 2 x's that are not like terms, so we need to factor, we need to see the 0. Okay, so GCF and T. GCF, do I got the negative in the front? Yeah, I'm always going to have the negative in the front when I'm doing the gravity problems. 16, and then we don't have x on everything, so I'm not going to be able to do an x. 16, 16, 96, so 16. So 116, 2, 8, 3 is a decimal, and then 4, 4. Okay, let's see if we can divide these 3 things by the highest number from the list, 16. Well, 16 divides by 16, and 16 divides by 16 does 96. Because if it does, I can use 16. Oh, it does. So negative 16 is going to be my GCF here. So negative 16 pops out. And then I'm going to divide these all by negative 16. So that becomes positive 1 And then that stays to the second because I'm not dividing by x here. 16 divided by negative 16 is negative 1, so minus 1, and that x is going to stay. 96 divided by negative 16 is negative 6, so minus 6. Okay, so I want to run my ABC from here. It's going to be much easier than doing it up there because the small numbers are smaller. So I take A times C, so I'm going to take positive 1 times negative 6. That gives me a negative product of 6, so it's negative, so we're looking for difference of 1. 1 and 6. 6 minus 1 is 5. Can't use that. 6 divided by 2 is 3. 3 minus 2 is 1. Found it. So I've got minus 1 right there on my B, so you got to have minus 3, okay, guaranteed. And then difference means the signs can't match. They got to be opposite. So plus 2 and minus 3. Go find your A. Equals 1. So that means you just need 2 sets. Okay. So I can just go x. Whenever A is 1, I don't need to lead off with a number. I can just go to my x, and then plus 2 and minus 3. Now, we did have that GCF negative 16, but that doesn't have an x, so that's not an important factor when I got to find these answers. That's F1, and that's F2. Okay, so this is nice. I can just go x plus 2 equals 0, x minus 3 equals 0. Okay, so I minus 2, I get negative 2 for my first answer. I plus 3, and positive 3 for my second. So the negative is kind of a false answer, and 3 seconds is the right answer. Okay, and the last one I'm going to do, and then you got one to do on your own. A football is thrown in the air at an initial height of 5 feet, initial velocity of 16 feet per second. How many seconds does it hit the ground? Okay, so again, the units are seconds and feet. Okay. Again, the time is always x. Okay, so seconds is x, and then the other unit is y. The reason time is always x is because x is what's called an independent variable. Time, even if I drop dead tomorrow, time goes on. Okay. Obviously, I'm not going to be throwing a football though. Okay, so that's dependent. Feet per second, I know is 16. So again, it's a parabolic path. It goes up, it's going to come back down. We're going to say it hits the ground. It's a bad pass. The receiver doesn't catch it. And he ends up at 0 feet. So it's another gravity problem. Negative 16x squared. And then 16x. And then remember, we start from 5, so plus 5. Now I can go to equals y. And then 0 feet is, y is replaced with 0 feet. Okay, x is the second power, so there's 2 answers. Okay, and again, I have an x squared and an x. Those are not like terms, so anytime my variable is not like terms in the whole problem, we need to see our 0. It's there. And we set up our factoring boxes. So 3 terms, so I'm looking for a GCF. And then we'll make a T-chart. Do I have a negative in front? Yes, I do. Do I have X on everything? No, I don't. Okay, so 16, 16, 5. 5 would be your smallest, so 1 and 5. And 5 isn't divisible by 2. You can't divide it by 3. I mean, it's decimals. 5 divided by 4 is a decimal. And then I'm just back to 5. Now, and then something's going to come up that hasn't come up in any of the problems we've done yet. Well, obviously, I can't divide by 5. Now, so that means my GCF's 1s and negative 1. Now, when it's 1, I just cross out that box. But when it's negative 1, you need to go through that process, okay? So you actually need to divide by negative 1. So that's going to be positive 16. And that's going to stay x to the second. it's going to be negative 16, so minus 16, and the x stays, and then minus 5. Okay, so now I run my ABC from here, and I take A times C. So I've got 16 times negative 5. Well, 16 times negative 5 is negative 80, so it's 80, and the product's negative. So that means, again, I'm looking for a difference that's going to equal the B, which is 16. 1 and 80. 80 minus 1, not 16. 80 divided by 2 is 40, not 16. 3 is a decimal. 80 divided by 4 is 20. 20 minus 4, bingo. Got it. So I've got minus 16. Okay, so because of that minus, you're going to have minus 20. And difference would mean, well, they can't match up. Okay, now A here, unfortunately, is 16. So you bet I got to make 4 parentheses. And then 16 and 16. XX, and then plus 4 and minus 20. Okay, well here I'm dealing with 4 as my small guy and 16 is my small guy here. So 4, 1, 4, 2, 2. Now I think you can divide those both by 4. So you need to divide by 4 and not 2 because you need to factor it as small as possible. 16, I got 1 and 16, 2 and 8. 3 is a decimal, then I got twin 4s. So can I divide those by 16? No. Can I divide those by 8? No. Can you divide them by 4? Yeah. Okay, you can. They're both divisible by 4. That'll be 4x minus 5. Okay, we did have this GCF negative 1, but since it's negative 1 and not negative 1x, I don't parenthesize it. This is my F1. This is my F2. Okay, so 4x plus 1 could equal 0, or 4x minus 5 could equal 0. So I take 1 away, so 4x equals negative 1 divided by 4. Negative 1 divided by 4 is negative 0.25, okay? And then I plus 5, so 4x equals 5, and then we divide by 4. And 5 divided by 4 is 1.25, okay? So that negative can be forgotten, and then 1.25 is the answer, okay?